Hello and welcome to Global Eye from the BBC World Service. In the next half hour, we'll bring you the best journalism from our teams across the world. I'm Joe Tidy, the BBC cyber correspondent, and this week we're in Silicon Valley, California, the beating heart of the ongoing AI revolution. This strip of land has shaped modern life, from personal computers to social media, and now it's at the forefront of the next tech wave. There's a handful of companies here who are fighting for supremacy in the race to build super intelligent AI. And the stakes? Power, money, and maybe even the future of humanity. Later in the programme, I'll be exploring one development that was, until recently, a sci-fi dream, the birth of domestic helper robots. And it's a few smaller startups sprinkled around San Francisco that could soon be overtaking the tech giants to make AI servants in your home a reality. And in the wake of America's capture of the Venezuelan president, why is Donald Trump so keen to control Venezuela's oil when America produces such huge quantities of oil itself? We'll explore the global struggle for the planet's precious mineral resources. Artificial intelligence has been an invisible part of all our lives for years. Everything from our social media feeds to our sat-navs has used some form of AI without us really knowing or caring. But the rise of generative AI, programs that can create text or pictures or videos in an instant, has showed us just how powerful and pervasive this technology is. OpenAI caught the world and the rest of the tech industry off guard when ChatGPT went viral in 2022. The free website became the fastest growing consumer application in history after being used by 1 million people in just 5 days. Today, 800 million people use it weekly, according to the company. Tech giants like Google and Microsoft are deep in the race too, and new entrants like Anthropic and Elon Musk's xAI are all fighting for a slice of the trillion-dollar dream, as innovative tools to improve productivity and creativity are unveiled almost weekly. But this isn't just a US story. It's a race too with China's Silicon Valley equivalent, Shenzhen. That was evident last year when Chinese AI app DeepSeek topped the Apple download charts and rocked the markets as US firms realised they no longer had a monopoly on AI. But the AI revolution is being viewed with alarm by some environmentalists. They fear it's driving up water consumption that could lead to shortages, although the exact extent of this is highly contested. Critics also argue that the energy-hungry data centres needed to power this tech revolution are setting back the global drive to bring down carbon emissions. Google and others have already admitted that their own carbon reduction targets are under strain. But President Trump has shifted Washington's priorities away from CO2 reduction as the US doubles down on trying to win the AI race. And as ever, what happens here has ripple effects around the world. The darker side of AI has been on display in recent weeks, as users of Elon Musk's AI assistant Grok have repeatedly prompted its image generation tool to digitally undress women and even children to make nearly nude images of them. Elon Musk has warned that anyone using Grok to make illegal content will suffer the same consequences as if they uploaded it themselves. Campaigners are urging governments across the world to tighten regulation on deepfake images, or at least enforce laws already passed but untested. The techno-utopian view is that it'll all be worth it. Technologists promise us that the downsides of AI will soon be overcome, and eventually there will be an age of abundance. Sam Altman of OpenAI and his rival, Elon Musk at Tesla, they talk about a time when we won't even have to work, and that inequality, all too visible here on the streets of San Francisco, will be eradicated.
We think it can be a printing press moment. We are working to build tools that one day could help us make new discoveries and address some of humanity's biggest challenges, like climate change and curing cancer.
There are other concerns too. Some of the brightest minds in AI are warning that the birth of an intelligence greater than humanity's might lead to the downfall of humanity. The shock of ChatGPT led to a global drive around regulations for AI safety. Slow down and make sure that these models have humanity's best interests at heart. That was the cry, but no more. Just as climate concerns have fallen off the priority list, so too have discussions about AI safety as governments prioritise growth over caution. And many experts also caution that a bubble could be building, with investors down for big losses if the economic promise of AI doesn't live up to expectations. Whether we like it or not, the race is on and we're all along for the ride. AI is changing how we live and work, and the next frontier could be in our homes, courtesy of domestic helper robots. Interestingly, it's not big tech that's leading the charge here. It's nimble startups dotted around San Francisco. And according to some of these companies, it could be this year that we start to see these robots in homes. Domestic helper bots are coming. Billions is being poured into this new AI frontier, a global gold rush underway.
You just go make us a cup of coffee.
I'm on it.
But how close actually are we to the sci-fi dream of a robot butler?
Oh, holy. Never seen this in my whole life.
Good accuracy. Oh, I spoke too soon. It's not just investor money at stake. The tech will test safety and privacy in our most intimate of settings, our homes. And as with so many tech races, it seems like it's China versus the US, and Silicon Valley is taking centre stage. I've come to Palo Alto to meet the CEO of AI startup Sunday. Yes. Hi, Tony. How's it going?
Please come in.
Thank you. Tony Chow began working on his home robot while at uni, but dropped out to build Memo full-time. While many domestic robots in development are controlled by someone teleoperating them, Sunday has trained its bot to do many tasks completely on its own. So, can it see me around it? Does it?
Yep.
Yeah, can it?
Right now it doesn't react to you,
Yeah.
but it can perceive the world with all the cameras and other sensors. Can you just go make us a cup of coffee?
It's after 2 p.m. Would you like me to go ahead and make that cup of coffee for you?
Yes, please go ahead.
I'm on it. Making your coffee now.
So Tony, can I just check with you? There's no one that we can't see doing this for the robot. This is all
Nope.
autonomous.
Yes, it's one single neural network controlling the whole body movement of the robot.
Wow. It was all going smoothly. Then Tony paused the demo as he saw something was off.
Maybe we need to restart this and restart this. Can you stop? I think there's a. Can you stop it? I think we might need to do it again. I saw there's some peeling off here. Sorry about that. Let's just try again.
Okay.
Maybe I'm overly cautious. Oh, holy!
Oh.
I've never seen this in my whole life.
After a reset, Memo smoothly cleared away the table. There's obviously work to be done to get it ready for homes, but there's no doubt this is one of the most capable bots in the world. How have you got the robot to be this advanced? How have you done it?
So I think normally the way we train AI is to teleoperate the robot in people's homes or in other places and gather the data and train the AI. And what we're doing is different, as in we don't need robot data to train the robot. And instead, we build these gloves. And people just wear the gloves in their homes and collect data for us. And that gives us really diverse data because we now see like more than 500 homes and also all the different ways they go about doing the task.
Sunday's army of robot teachers are all being paid to do repetitive, everyday tasks, a reminder of the human drudgery underpinning how these machines learn. The staff allow cameras and sensors to record their every move at home. But Sunday plans to start shipping Memos next year. So, if the bot needs to be remotely controlled, it will raise privacy considerations for customers, as well as questions about safety in a domestic setting.
Like there will be kids running around. Kids will be climbing on the robot, right? So we really want to make sure that we put safety as a most fundamental consideration when we design these robots.
Some robotics companies are already out in the wild, gathering training data in public. Here it is. Isaac's been trained by watching hundreds of hours of laundry folding. For the last couple of months though, it's been doing it on its own for real, here and in 6 other sites in San Francisco.
Deployment is the strategy. Nothing counts if it's sequestered away in a lab.
We'll do a live demonstration. There we are. Okay. This is a lot slower than a human. So some people might be watching this saying, oh, that's not very impressive. But can you tell us why it is impressive?
This thing can run all day. You often hear that robots are best suited to tasks that are dull, dirty, or dangerous. We want to make clothing folding optional for people.
When you first put this robot here, how long did it take to do one t-shirt?
I think that we were looking at 230.
So already, what, in how many months?
That's in a month and a half.
In a month and a half, you've
Yeah.
got down to 130, just over 130. We've plans to start shipping this year. They say it'll be able to tidy up and fold laundry, but it's not clear how much of that will be autonomous. Across town, at Physical Intelligence, they're not interested in building robots themselves. They're focused on creating the AI software that can be used to make any robot capable of doing chores autonomously.
The rest of AI, like in ChatGPT, for example, we're used to training these models on an internet of data, but we don't have that web of data for robotics. So we want to be able to actually kind of essentially breathe intelligence into any sort of physical embodiment, whether that's kind of a standard typical robot, a humanoid robot, or even something that looks closer to an appliance, for example.
Like all these companies, Chelsea and her team are developing their AI software using reams of videos of humans doing chores. Their approach is proving successful. Investors like AI giant OpenAI are on board. Another tech giant, Tesla, is deep in development of its own humanoid robot, Optimus. But it's not yet clear what it can do. And it's not just in the US where people are getting excited about human-like robots. Chinese company Unitree is already dominating the market with its G1 robot, seen here in a demo given to us by its UK seller, Scan.
This is happening right now. People are buying them, people are coding on them, and people are learning. It's entirely operated. It's not autonomous at all, as of yet.
It's hard to get into China to film, but the humanoid robot industry is so hot there that the government recently warned a bubble might be building, set to burst. What's really interesting driving around and speaking to all these robotics companies in Silicon Valley is there's a lot of confidence. They think they are building the future and they're certain it's going to be a huge moneymaker. But there's also some nervousness as well, because there's lots of things that we wanted to film and we wanted to show, but we can't. They are scared because, of course, this is a race to bring to market a domestic robot. A company that hopes to be the first is 1X. The Norwegian-founded company moved here last year, and millions of dollars are riding on its bot Neo becoming a hit. Someone is operating Neo right now and watering all the plants. I've just been told this is what they do all day. So there are people in the office operating Neo with a VR headset, carrying out tasks and testing all day long. Good accuracy. Oh, I spoke too soon. So interestingly, Neo is struggling with this particular handle, but the team here change the handles all the time because they're trying to train the robot different ways to open different handles. They had it there. Founder Bernd Bornich is pushing hard to get Neo out to homes. So what can Neo do right now for me in my home?
Does a pretty good job of tidying. So resetting my living room and my house in general. Wiping surfaces, cleaning the counter, these kind of things.
And that's all someone with a VR headset?
It's a mix. It's a mix. So in my home, we have a lot of data. So a lot of the stuff in my home can get automated because we have data there. Periodically, someone kind of steps in and helps if the robot does not know exactly how to move on.
Early adopters will have to be comfortable then waiving their privacy. And as with all these bots, battery life is going to have to be improved, as Neo can only work for about 4 hours at a time. But Bernd promises that Neo will be able to carry out many tasks and charge itself autonomously by the time they start shipping it. Your first set of customers then, they have to be quite wealthy and they have to be willing for Neo to make mistakes, essentially.
Well, I don't think they have to be quite wealthy. I think
thousands of pounds though, isn't it? I don't know how much it is.
Well, it depends on...
£20,000?
Yeah, are most people who have a car quite wealthy?
So you liken it to a car?
Yeah, I mean, it is a pretty affordable car. It depends on your needs, right? A lot of our early customers are people that actually will have a lot of value from this. And for a very large subset of that, it will be way higher value than having a second car. Getting the right customers is more important in the beginning. Distribution with the right customers. So we can really use these amazing people that are early adopters to help us make this work.
Outside of the tech bubble, some, including the International Federation of Robotics, think it could take 20 years before domestic bots become truly useful and accepted. But we have heard that before about other futuristic AI technologies.
So keep your seatbelt fastened, please.
In some ways, brand new revolutionary technology does just sort of creep up on you. If you think about driverless cars, I've been talking about driverless cars in my reporting for a decade at least, but now they're here and they're just sort of normal. In many cities across the US and in China, driverless cars are an everyday sight. AI robotics companies are convinced their tech will go the same way. And not only will their devices be truly useful, we'll all eventually want one in our homes. Now to South America. Donald Trump has said Venezuela will be turning over up to 50 million barrels of oil to the US. This comes after the military operation to remove President Nicolas Maduro from power. But why does America want more oil when it's already the world's biggest producer? Laura Garcia from the BBC's global journalism team explains why.
The United States produces more oil than any other country in the world. And President Trump talks about it a lot.
Take the oil. Keep the oil. Drill, baby, drill.
But he doesn't just talk about America's oil.
We're going to have a presence in Venezuela as it pertains to oil.
So why is he interested in more oil when the US has so much of its own? To understand this, we need to take a deeper look at oil and how it shaped the US and the world. Oil fuels our transport and powers our homes, but it's also used to make plastic, asphalt, and even some lip balms. And to make all those different things requires different types of oil. Depending on its density, sulfur content, and ability to flow, oil is classed from light sweet crude on one end to heavy sour on the other. It's easier to refine light crude than heavy, which is thicker. And once that's done, the light is mainly used for products like gasoline and jet fuel, while heavy oil can be used as fuel for ships, material for roads, and lip balm, among many other things. That's generally reflected in the price. Light sweet crude, the blue line on the chart, is worth more than heavy, the red line, and so it's more expensive to buy. And this is key to understanding American oil. In 2025, the US sold 13.4 million barrels a day. But at the same time, it bought nearly 2 million barrels each day from other countries. So why not just keep those extra barrels it produces? It all comes down to light versus heavy. America's oil is 80% light. But most US oil refineries, like these along the Gulf Coast, were built to deal with heavy. That's because most oil available to the US in the 20th century was heavy sour crude oil imported from Latin America and Canada. But in the early 2000s, there was a seismic shift in US oil production. Advances in technology meant light crude oil trapped in shale rocks could now be extracted at scale. This means there's a mismatch between most of the oil America has and the type it can refine.
Once a refinery has been built, it's very difficult to change it, and it requires millions and millions of dollars worth of investment.
It's not worth doing that because, as we saw on this graph, America can sell its light crude for more and buy heavy for less. It makes good economic sense. So let's look at the top 10 countries with the biggest oil reserves. Many are known to extract heavy crude. 3 of them, Venezuela, Iran, and Russia, are currently under sanctions by the United States. Despite this, small amounts of oil from Venezuela have trickled into the US. That's because after Venezuela struck oil, it was mostly American companies that helped set up the industry. And that relationship continued for most of the 20th century, extracting their heavy crude.
Unlike other Latin American countries, Venezuela maintained this positive relationship with the United States. Even during the 1976 nationalization of oil.
But the turning point was when socialist leader Hugo Chavez came to power in 1999. He asserted state control over the oil industry in particular.
He put tougher conditions on foreign oil companies, and that's what the US government and US oil companies didn't really like.
When Hugo Chavez died in 2013, Nicolás Maduro became president and continued these policies. In 2019, a World Bank tribunal ordered the Venezuelan government to pay compensation to US oil companies, but it wasn't paid. And that's part of what US President Donald Trump is referring to when he says that Venezuela has stolen American oil.
They took our oil rights. We had a lot of oil there. As you know, they threw our companies out, and we want it back.
Venezuela denies these claims. Things escalated between the two countries at the end of 2025 when the US military seized oil tankers and blockaded Venezuelan ports. President Trump said this was to tackle narco-terrorism. On January 3rd, American troops seized the leader of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, and his wife. They took them to the United States to face drug-related charges. Here's some of what President Trump said following that intervention.
We'll have the greatest oil companies in the world go in and invest billions and billions of dollars and take out money, use that money in Venezuela, and the biggest beneficiary are going to be the people of Venezuela.
US and Western sanctions in Venezuela over the last decades have made space for competitors to come in, like Russia, Iran, and particularly China. China has been buying around 90% of Venezuela's oil and is a key trading partner. And it's this sort of influence that the Trump administration wants to stop.
Well, we want safety there. We want to be surrounded by countries that aren't housing all of our enemies all over the world.
When it comes to Venezuela's oil, things aren't going to change quickly. Despite Venezuela having the biggest known reserves, around 303 billion barrels, it exports fewer than 1 million barrels a day. That's because of sanctions and decades of underfunding and mismanagement.
The infrastructure has to be, in some cases, believe it or not, rebuilt from scratch. Looking at a 3 to 4 year window before any Venezuelan crude in meaningful volumes happens.
And while there's a push to use more renewable energy in the face of growing climate change concerns, oil still plays a crucial role in the global order.
Also this week on the World Service. As protests have rapidly spread across Iran in recent days, initially driven by public anger over the country's economy, BBC Persian, in collaboration with BBC Verify, have been monitoring videos posted online to produce a dynamic map indicating where the protests have broken out. The map clearly shows just how widespread the challenge to the Iranian government has become. You can read the full story on the BBC News website. Now we're going to take you to Central America. Since Donald Trump's return to the White House in January 2025, the United States has taken a much stricter view on immigration, with sweeping efforts to remove undocumented migrants from the country. Yet despite the threat of deportation, thousands from Central and Southern America continue to head north in search of opportunity. Among them are Guatemalans. Nearly 10% of the country's population has relocated to the US in recent decades, and the remittances they send back home have become a cornerstone of Guatemala's economy. Atahualpa Amariz reports on how remittance homes have become an economic lifeline and a cultural symbol.
Mi hijo se fue a los Estados Unidos y de ese tiempo empezó a enviar remesa para poder construir su casita.
Mi mamá se fue a los Estados Unidos, cumplió su sueño, hizo nuestra casa en Guatemala.
Guatemala, a country made up of around 18 million, is one of the poorest countries in Central America. Inequality is extreme, especially in rural and indigenous areas, where poverty, underemployment, and limited access to public services remain widespread. For decades, migration has been one of the main ways Guatemalans have tried to escape that reality. The main destination, the United States. For families who stay behind, migration has one central economic consequence: remittances.
Quita un ratito tu música.
Antonio is a master builder and has just completed this mansion for his 22-year-old son, who migrated to the US 3 years ago.
Mi hijo trae ese sueño de tener la casa bonita. Ha agarrado 2 trabajos. Construcción en la parte de la mañana y parte de la noche en restaurante. Yo no he viajado, pero creo lo duro que es estar en los Estados Unidos. Cada vez que él consigue el dinero, manda para el material, manda para pago, y así conforme se fue ejecutando la obra.
Globally, remittances are often discussed as financial flows. In Guatemala, they are visible in everyday life and in the built environment.
Esta ya es un acabado cocina americana. Esto es un desayunador o barra, como le podemos llamar.
Money sent from migrants in the United States has become a pillar of Guatemala's economy. In many rural municipalities, remittances exceed all other sources of income combined, including state investment.
Buenos días. Hello, JP.
Jordi is a local architect who specializes in American-style homes. From his studio in the center of San Martín, Zacatepequez, he designs houses commissioned by migrants who want to help their families or dream of one day returning to live in Guatemala.
El costo promedio de las viviendas de remesa, estamos hablando de un oscilante de $100,000, que son 700,000 quetzales en adelante. Aquí le gustan los colores pastel brillantes, amarillos, celestes, turquesas, morados. Al final de cuentas viene siendo un choque de quién tiene lo mejor. La mayoría de mis clientes vienen de Estados Unidos, podría asegurar que aproximadamente un 75% de ellos vienen de allá. Es un pequeño porcentaje el que se queda acá en Guatemala y puede hacer las viviendas que alguien en esa situación de ese país podría construir.
Maria's mother works in the United States and moved there more than 12 years ago. The money she sends to Guatemala every month allowed her daughter to move from a small house made of metal sheets to this 3-story mansion.
Aquí tengo el local y tengo la sala, tengo un cuarto y la cocina. Y en tercer nivel tengo 4 cuartos y una regadera y un baño. Mi mamita, ella está trabajando en limpieza. 7 días trabaja ella allí. Ella luchando. Dijo mi mamita, a mí me gustaría hacer mi casa como estilo americano, porque yo cuando yo voy a trabajar allá, yo quisiera tener unos de ellos.
In recent years, remittances have also become a form of insurance against deportation. Since President Donald Trump returned to the White House, U.S. immigration policy has again tightened. The administration has intensified enforcement against undocumented migrants, increasing workplace raids and deportations. Most Guatemalans now living in the U.S. are believed to be undocumented.
Puede tener que ver con un pánico de que cualquier momento los van a deportar y tienen que esforzarse más y mandar lo más que puedan por las nuevas políticas migratorias de Trump. El envío de remesas de vuelta hacia Guatemala está transformando completamente la arquitectura de pueblos y periferias de las ciudades guatemaltecas. La cantidad de remesas que se recibió, por ejemplo, en el año 2024 fue de 21,000 millones. Es una barbaridad. Estamos hablando del 20% del PIB guatemalteco.
Guatemala's remittance architecture is ultimately a physical record of global inequality, migration, and power, built one house at a time.
Ellos le pidieron a Dios poder llegar a donde ellos sueñan, como es el sueño americano, y esperamos en Dios, así como fueron, así regresan a disfrutar del sacrificio. Mi hijo, él está ya ansioso de regresar y ver la casa que se ha construido para él.
Thanks for joining us here in California. Next week, Global Eye will be reporting from Israel. Goodbye.